Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. And Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from one end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, who shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Hawayala, called to be a minister of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi Hamashiach by the will of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, according to the will that the Lord has spoken aforetime, that we should believe on Yahawashi Hamashiach, who was prophesied to come according to the books of the law and the prophets, that we should believe upon him that was sent by the Heavenly Father, who was going to speak the words of everlasting life, that we may be able to receive remission of sins and inherit everlasting life. I was going into a lesson just concerning the so-called Christopher Columbus Day, or as some brothers and sisters know it as Indigenous Peoples Day. Of course, we do not observe, so to speak, necessarily days that do not correspond to the scriptures, meaning that it's not required for you to observe such a day as this in any form or fashion. The days that we are required by law to regard is the days that are in the scriptures. However, I'm doing this lesson because it is a rebuke on the day known as the Columbus Day, and the atrocities that were done to our people, which was prophesied to happen. Okay, and we know that many of our people that were here, their forefathers had lived on this land as natives, meaning that they were the first people to be in this land, as they're also known as first peoples or natives that came from the Assyrian captivity, which is according to prophecy in 2nd Esdras, that they would live in a land that never mankind dwelt. And this was the land that it was. It was also prophesied that a nation was going to come from far, okay, and that was going to do these atrocities. Now, we know when you go back into the land of Israel, the children of Edom were not far from the children of Israel, okay? So the children of Edom were, in fact, just south of the tribe of Judah, okay, and where their land was positioned over in what is now known as modern-day Jordan, or the area known as Petra, which would have been, their headquarters, or basically in the ancient world would have been known as Basra, which is the original habitation, all right, of the children of Edom, who left that land and over time settled into Europe, which has been proven in various documents, even of their own people. They admit that the Edomites were the Romans, meaning the ethnic Romans that settled in that land and took over the Etruscan people. That they were later known to be Romans, meaning the Edomites that took that land. And those people formed what was called the Roman Empire, according to William Beeston, who wrote a book called The Roman Empire of the Edomites. Okay, so this is all chronicled. This is stuff that they even said. So, a lot of people have a problem when their own people tell them the history that even their own people wrote during the time when our people were not even allowed to read. They wrote these things. So they were sharing that amongst themselves in truth among each other, knowing that they were going to hold that lie from us, and a lot of our people were not going to believe. But the scriptures speak expressly about the coming atrocities that the children of Edom would do to us and the way in which it will happen. And it also shows the redemption, all right, of the people that have, went through those atrocities, who ended up believing, on the gospel of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi Hamashiach. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go briefly. If you saw last week, we touched upon, the atrocities of Christianity against the children of Israel, as the reason why, Christianity as a religion, as it has been taught over the last 500 years, is finished, and why the truth of the gospel, the truth of the prophecies, is basically superseding, all those things and destroying, all lies. So going into, this particular part is kind of quickly. As we saw in the scripture, it says that the nation shall come against thee from far, as swift as the eagle flieth. Now, because we're talking about so-called Christopher Columbus, being that he was under the authority of the Spanish crown, we're going to kind of focus on the things that he did. As you know, we can go over a wide range of atrocities that was committed by other Edomites, whether they came under the banner of British, French, Dutch, Danish, Portuguese, German, etc., etc. So we could go into those things, but for the sake of this lesson, we're just going to focus on, this particular subject at hand, which is Christopher Columbus and things that he did, and later the Spanish crown also did, against the native people, which would have been the Northern Kingdom. And then later on, of course, the atrocities that were committed against, those that were taken captive, from West and Central Africa into captivity into this place, and also, of course, the Moors that were brought from Spain, Portugal to serve captivity over here as well, which is also documented. Now, you see here, this particular eagle that's in Spain is also known as their the national bird, which is known as the Spanish imperial eagle. And what does the word imperial mean? Imperial signifies an empire, okay? And that's why they call it the Spanish imperial eagle, because an empire goes and conquers other people. And this is their bird that represented them, okay? Even just the whole nation of Edom, they also, held the banner of the eagle, okay? When you look at Petra, which was the ancient Edom, they have their national bird carved into their cave, meaning, and what I mean by national bird, meaning it's their national mascot as a people. The Edomites, they represent themselves via the eagle. Same thing happened under the Roman Empire as well. Okay, so this is not something new. This is something that they've always done and they've taken a hold on to. In fact, in America, we know that if you look up the American bald eagle, here it is, all these different animals that are on this land, they make the eagle, all right, the exalted creature that they so look after, because it's swift, it's ferocious, and it's merciless, right, to whoever its prey is. And this is no different with these Edomites and what they've done to our people. So as we go on, I'm going to go into Christopher Columbus, okay, or the Columbus Day. Now, I'm going to show y'all something as well that I also had seen recently concerning this particular holiday, okay, which is basically a support of genocide, of a satanic, mass murderer by the name of Christopher Columbus, who these Edomites hold in high regard. And even some of our people, celebrate this. They look up to Christopher Columbus as if he's some kind of a great man. And, it makes you wonder, what kind of captivity you would have to be under to celebrate a person who slaughtered your own people. But you still have people that are like that. And then you have people that, are descendants of the same type of people that Christopher Columbus was. And they're going to celebrate that as a victory, okay? Which will eventually become their shame. So as you see here, it says that Christopher Columbus is a national holiday in many countries of the Americas and elsewhere, which officially celebrates the anniversary of Christopher Columbus' arrival in the Americas, which was on October 12th, 1942, according to the Julian calendar at the time. Now, that's why they signify it, okay? Because these people, they kept journals on the day that they arrived in certain places, and this is the reason why they celebrate it. What they are celebrating is the beginning of many prophecies that would unfold and become ultimately the beginning of their end. Because as they did these things, they confirmed, prophecies, and they've also confirmed who they were according to scriptures, that they were the people that were prophesied to come against our own, okay, in the last days. And we're in the last days of the last days, and this information continues to come out. And as time has gone on, you've seen some Edomites that have even shunned celebrating of this because they know of the offense that it was that was done. And it's kind of too late, because the judgment is eventually going to come upon the children of those that did this and benefited from said atrocities. Now, as we go on, and this is something that I realized as I was just skimming through it. Well, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I'm just going to kind of show you something. It says here, the landing is celebrated as Columbus Day in the United States, but the name varies on international spectrum. In some Latin American countries, October 12th is known as Dia de la Raza. Okay, so Dia de la Raza is referring to La Raza as in the Spanish conquistador raza, right? Basically, the the race of people, which would be, these Edomites and their descendants. And, one of the things that's also lost in this is that a lot of people that are in these Latin American countries are indeed descendants, all right, of Spanish conquistadors. We cannot go without saying that. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why we have to speak truth. Okay. And be mindful, right, that there are people that live in these countries that have benefited, their descendants have benefited from these atrocities and the enslavement of our people, and they hold that in high regard, and they look forward to the continual oppression of our people that are in these lands, that are destitute, that have lost their land, that have been enslaved, that have been disenfranchised, and they push various doctrines that are very destructive to our people who hold the same identity as them, as being part of this special La Raza or race. And that's the reason why, if you're of the Northern Kingdom, and I say this, to basically, let you know, is that you have to do some level of correcting of, of what has happened. And what I mean by that is you got to rebuke your people out of this particular mindset, because a lot of these things and a lot of these thoughts and doctrines that are pushed have had a detrimental effect upon those that are in those lands that are not just classified as native, but are classified as Moreno, Negro, and because of that, it has kind of caused a wedge among our people. And I think that for those that are from these particular backgrounds and those that have deeper understanding of these particular issues, it is up to you as men, especially those that are teachers, those that are, that are in this, that want to have our people be reconciled, both kingdoms, right? Northern and Southern Kingdom, or Israel and Judah. It is up to you to be a peacemaker and to bridge that difference, to extend that proverbial olive branch of peace and say that these things that have happened were wrong, and to rebuke these things. It cannot always be, brothers that are of the Northern Kingdom, so to speak, speaking on these things that have been done, because this wedge has even driven, to Babylon, okay, where we've had these issues between both sides. And I think that it's not a good thing that if one side is always speaking upon this particular subject in regards to the animosity or the wedge between both sides, the Northern and Southern Kingdom, which is driven has even spilled over into this whole, Israelite so-called movement, and it's had, a bad detrimental effect upon the relationship between those that are sincerely trying to move forward beyond this. But we do know that the Most High is going to has brothers that are going to rise up, and they're going to basically speak upon these things, and they're going to, make sure that amongst those that will be the elect, and as of right now we're the hopeful elect, that we'll be able to have those discussions and be able to rebuke the devil who has set this wedge between the tribes, so to speak. So moving on, with this, I'm just going to kind of scroll down and just show you just how over time this particular celebration has kind of died down. Now it goes into the non-observance, and this is where it goes into it. It says how that the celebration of Columbus Day in the United States began to decline at the end of the 20th century. And that's basically in the late 90s. And the reason why is because you had basically people getting access to more information. For many years, the lie was taught that Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas. And as time went on, as it began to be known or understood that particular saying in and of itself has very racist connotations. For one, it basically discounts the fact that another group of people had already been in this land for centuries, and had been here for a very long time, developed their own cities, empires, customs, cultures, and so on and so forth. And what it does is it relegates them to the standing of an animal, where another man can come, hundreds of years later, or even 2 millennia later, almost, and essentially say that he found something that other people, millions upon millions of people, already on. And this pushback really started. I remember even, being in school asking questions about, how can someone be said to be a founder if other people were here? And so over time, what has happened is because of political correctness, so to speak, a lot of these Edomites had to start basically going away from it. They had to start trying to switch up things. They had to call it something else in certain parts of the country where there was more people that had viewed themselves as an indigenous people who were disenfranchised. So that's the reason why, as you see here, it says the states of Florida, Hawaii, Alaska, Vermont, South Dakota, New Mexico, Maine, Wisconsin, and parts of California, including, for example, Los Angeles County, do not recognize it and have each replaced it with the celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. In Hawaii, Discoverers Day. In South Dakota, Native American Day. And why South Dakota? Because South Dakota was the battle of, I believe, of Wounded Knee, okay, which was considered the last battle against the so-called Native Americans. And they know that there's people that are there that are natives who are descendants of those people that were part of that battle, and they find great offense for them to say that another group of people, founded this land when their forefathers were already here long before them. And this shows you the arrogance of Esau, that he has pushed this for this long and that he taught this lie to many of our people. And this is one of the reasons why we have this these problems with these people, because they continue to lie, and then when they're corrected, they still try and continue that lie by basically trying to rewrite history or to try and soften things up, when really it's just nothing but an atrocity. And Christopher Columbus should never be looked at as a high regarded human being. If they believe that Hitler did what he did and they talk down upon him every year, so to speak, right? Then why not do the same thing to Christopher Columbus and say that what he did and what has led to the downfall, right, of the natives and the atrocities that occurred, that thing should never happen again. But these people are so prideful in their belief of manifest destiny and this country is theirs and see the shining sea and God bless America, that they don't really care for that. Neither have they done anything to rectify, right, these particular issues. Now, it says here, let me go down to that Dia de la Raza, okay? Because we got to understand is that this particular day is not just observed in Babylon. That's the reason why we always say that for brothers and sisters out there, especially for you brothers that teach or brothers that want to gain in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, always put your mindset that what has happened to our people is a global thing. It didn't just happen, in Babylon. It didn't just happen in the Caribbean, or it didn't just happen in Americas, because a lot of times we tend to have a very narrow scope of what happened to our people based off of where, your father is from. If you're Puerto Rican, you might just talk about Taino Indians, but you may not really care too much about what happened to the people in the mainland, or what happened to people in South America, like Brazil, or what happened to people even in other parts of the world that you're of your own people, okay? Whether they be in Africa or whether they be in the Philippines. You have to have a better global perspective of what has happened to our people, because all of this was prophecy that was to occur. Now, as we read this, Dia de la Raza, the date Christopher Columbus arrived in America is celebrated in some countries of Latin America. The most common name for the celebration in Spanish, including some Latin American communities in the United States, is Dia de la Raza, the day of the race, or the day of the Hispanic people, commemorating the first encounters of Europeans and Native Americans. Now, they call it Dia de la Raza because it's Hispanic people. Hispanic means deriving from Spain, okay, or under the Spanish influence. And because of these type of celebrations, a lot of our people have suffered from an identity crisis, because of these type of celebrations, many people look at the motherland, so to speak, as Spain. And if you talk to people that are from these Latin American countries, they refer to the motherland as Spain. Okay, and we're talking about even those that are of so-called native or so-called Moreno Negro descent from their father's side. They refer to it the same way. And this is part of the confusion of the identity crisis that has also led to a wedge, among, our people, okay, of both sides, meaning that these type of things are cultural brainwashing that makes people feel superior to another group of people because they value themselves as a set of people that really was their oppressor. Okay, and when someone identifies with the oppressor, that is a very dangerous thing when you're not. When you have an identity that you identify with the people that conquered your people, you are basically you are self-destructed. You are completely, utterly destroyed once you get to that level. And then that's what the scriptures is designed to do. The word of the Lord is designed to remove you from that captive mind and to remove yourself out of these particular nuances and, colloquialisms and mottos and slogans such as Dia de la Raza, and celebrating these things and looking at guys like Christopher Columbus and these other wicked men as a sign of the arrival of this group of people known as Hispanic, okay, which there's no such thing as a Hispanic. There's really no such thing. There's no such thing as a Latino. These particular groups and identities did not exist prior to colonialism. Okay, back in 1400, the group Hispanic people on this side of the world did not exist. So what is your origin of your people if you're a descendant of the natives of that land? You're a descendant of the people of Israel, okay, according to prophecy, according to even historical secular documentation, okay, that the explorers themselves wrote about when they came here. They said the exact same thing, okay, and this cannot be refuted from a secular standpoint when you look at those things, how much more even, of course, biblical prophecies that occurred concerning this. Now, as we go on, it's going to say the day was first celebrated in Argentina, okay, which is known to be a heavily, racist place where a lot of even Nazis even settled in, after World War II, okay, to give you an idea of just the type of place it is. And Argentina also conspired to kill all the so-called Afro-Argentinians in various wars that were happening in South America, to where they decimated, almost practically eradicated the population of our people that were enslaved in Argentina, that were of, so-called Negro, as what people call in this world, descent, but they were pretty much of, primarily, which would have been known as the Southern Kingdom or the Kingdom of Judah. They would have been those people, or, and then of course we know that the natives also were joined together in captivity with them as well in Latin America, okay, which is also well documented, okay, because a lot of people say, when were the natives in captivity? When were they put in slavery? When you read the history, it tells you that they were put in slavery for about a good, 100 years before, in some of these places, before they even brought, other people over, our descendants that were brought on so-called slave ships from West and Central Africa, okay, that fulfilled other prophecies, okay. Now, as we see here, it says that in Venezuela and Colombia in 1921, Chile in 1922, and Mexico was first celebrated under this title in 2002, when it was changed to the Dia of the Indigenous Resistance. Okay, so they coined it a different term because I guess you can say that there was maybe some people that were more conscious and wanted to push for something a little bit different, but they commemorating that as a day of resistance, meaning that's the day that the indigenous began to resist the influence of those Spanish Edomites, so to speak. All right, so it says originally conceived of as a celebration of Hispanic influence in the Americas, as evidenced by the contemporary celebrations in Spain and Latin America. So the fact is that they celebrate this in Spain as well. Okay, so they commemorate this in Spain. So how are you commemorating something in Spain as you would in Latin America, unless you are down with the oppressive acts of such a man as Columbus, okay, and his men? So it says here, Dia de la Raza has come to be seen by nationalist activists throughout Latin America as a counter to Columbus Day, okay? So they try to flip it, but if you look at those dates of when those were created, and the fact that it's also celebrated in Spain, this lets you know that this particular understanding of it being celebrated in Spain is the same way that they're celebrating in Latin America, okay? So don't let these people fool you that say that they celebrate Dia de la Raza as a resistance towards Spain. No, these people are commemorating their own downfall. They're not looking at it from a resistance standpoint, okay? The ones that celebrate that version, okay? And we have days that we celebrate in the scriptures where we overcame resistance, all right, overcame our oppressors. We have various days. We have Exodus, we have Purim, Okay, we have the Feast of Lights, okay, also known as like the Feast of Dedication. Those are the ones that we are to celebrate that commemorates us overcoming, all right, our oppressors, or to observe of overcoming our oppressors. And these are the type of holidays that they use to confuse our people. And if you tell our people, hey, you don't need to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Days, you actually have 3 days, you actually have other high holy days that you could celebrate that are the same thing that goes back to your people Israel. And a lot of them would rather commemorate this than those days, okay? So I'm not going to go into the different days of how they celebrate it in these different places or different countries, but you can go ahead and read this as well. I'm going to have to go ahead and move on into just showing you Christopher Columbus. And basically, this is the guy, this is the murderer, this is the genocidal maniac, all right, that started, basically all the madness. This is here in Babylon. The Most High, raised up an oppressor, an enemy that was against us from far. And he used this guy as the guy that was going to really kick a lot of this stuff off, okay? And he did this under the authority of the Spanish crown. And this is the guy who they want you to celebrate, man. This is what they want our people to commemorate. Okay? And, when you go through this and you go through some of the accounts of what he saw and then what he did with his men, it's just, it's a horror movie, man. And the guy who wrote it was a guy by the name of Bartholomew de las Casas, okay? Which this particular guy was a witness of the atrocities. And he wrote a book about it. I highly recommend you brothers look him up and get his book concerning these atrocities. It's eye-opening, it's gut-wrenching, it's depressing, but it's something that you have to know as a people, so you never ever sit here and feel comfortable with these people as being your friends. These people are nothing more than your mortal enemies. They are literally manifested acts of Satan. That cannot be ever forgiven, ever. Okay, it will never be forgiven forever. What they've done to us. Okay, so it says here that he was a 16th century Spanish landowner, friar, priest, bishop, famed as historian and social reformer. He arrived in Hispaniola as a layman, then became a deacon or Dominican friar and priest. He was appointed as the first resident bishop of Chiapas, okay, which is over there in Mexico, and the first officially appointed protector of the Indians, okay, which was a doctrine that they created under the Spanish crown, that they were not going to continue to mistreat the so-called Indians, as they called them, which they didn't. They just wrote that as a document that they weren't going to do these same atrocities as they were doing, and then they were going to stop it, and they were going to try and basically, miscegenate with the people and bring them in under one identity, which now is known as Hispanic or Latino. Okay, this is all part of the ploy to basically quell the potential for resistance by bringing in this what you call paternalism over our people that were in that land, and make them feel as though that they belonged, okay, with the Spanish people. And this is part of the confusion that's gone on unto this very day. And brothers that are from the Latin American background could definitely see this, especially after you've come into the knowledge and you've looked up the history of your people. You see some of these tricks that they've done over the years to basically pacify, all right, our people that are in these lands. So it says here, his extensive writings, the most famous being a short account of the destruction of the Indies and the Historia de las Indias, chronicled the first decades of colonialization of the West Indies. He described the atrocities committed by the colonizers against the indigenous people. Okay, and you can look it up. If you search for it, go on. Get the book. Some brothers have the book. Some brothers have even done lessons on the book. If you just look them up, you can find out more information about some of the atrocities that were done. Okay, and these people have not paid for this stuff. Okay, they have not paid for this. In fact, they continue to further it by basically bringing, the rest, more of our people from that were settled in Africa, that were Israelites, into captivity as a way to say they can lessen the atrocities that was happening to the natives. Okay, but we know that according to the scriptures that both of both sides received atrocities at the hand of these Edomites. That's point blank period. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, because I'm going to go into some of these, things that happened as well, to kind of show that what the northern king tribes went through, to kind of dispel this falsity that is out there, that they never were in captivity. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole thing again. I'm putting this up so you can go and check it out later. But what I'm going to do, we're just going to go into this article that kind of goes into it briefly. Now, this is from thecrimson.com. I believe this may be, this is written back in 96. Okay, so it says here, celebrating genocide. Now, says here, it seems that everyone on campus is looking forward to enjoying a 3-day weekend. Columbus Day will be observed on Monday, freeing most students from the burdens of class and work for an extra day. I doubt that many students will truly celebrate Columbus Day. Most probably won't think twice about seafaring explorer on Monday. Yet this holiday does confer hero status on Christopher Columbus, and it reflects the values and historical consciousness of our society. Okay, and that just shows you consciously who these people are. Okay, and this is from Harvard. This is an article written from Harvard back in 96. Somebody wrote it. Okay, and it just shows you this mindset that these people have, the fact that they uplift this guy as a hero, and it shows you just how they really feel about whether or not they would feel guilty about doing another genocide upon our people. Okay, don't let that go over your head. Now, it says most Americans probably don't know much more about Columbus than the romanticized account of him they learned in grade school, that in 1492 he sailed out courageously from Spain, bound for India, which was a lie. Okay, that is a lie, but ended up discovering the New World, which he didn't discover. Okay, every October, this holiday is supposed to commemorate a high point in Western history. Okay, so as well, it's time to shatter that idealized myth. Now remember, it said in the late 20th century, which this is 1996 when this was written, okay, probably about a few weeks after Tupac had got killed, just to give you an idea. They wrote this article, and this is the reason why these type of articles that started coming out, it started leading to the decline of the celebration of Columbus Day as a legitimate holiday. In fact, in schools, they would try and commemorate Christopher Columbus Day, usually the Friday before, or on Tuesdays, where they would, they would go over it and they would celebrate Christopher Columbus, and they would talk about how great he is and what day. In fact, I still remember, this just shows you how sick these people are. I still remember the phrase that they used to make us sing when we were in grade school. Okay. And if you're my age, you probably remember this. I don't know if they did this in other states, but in our state, they made us say, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. If you Google that, you can find out the rest of the wording. But I still remember that, and that was many years ago. And they would make us repeat that over and over again to drill in our heads the importance of Columbus and how he came here, and this whole place on this side of the world became great, and America was eventually discovered, and how now we're the greatest nation on the planet, and it all started because of this guy, Christopher Columbus. And that's what they were pushing on everybody. It don't matter where you're from, it don't matter what your background was, that's what they pushed upon you. And you had to basically believe that lie, that wicked lie, that this guy was some kind of a great man and a guy who founded and discovered something, which was a lie. Now, as we go down, it's going to tell you what happened. Okay, so it's time to settle that idealized myth. When Columbus arrived at Cuba, Hispaniola, and other islands. Now, by the way, Hispaniola is the island that Haiti and Dominican Republic are. Okay, and it was known back then as Hispaniola. And other islands in the Caribbean, he instituted shockingly cruel and genocidal policies which rapidly decimated the populations of the indigenous Arawak Indians. He was also a slave trader, and his own words condemn him. Furthermore, the claim that he discovered the New World is dubious. He accidentally came into contact with a culture that had existed for hundreds of years, if not thousands. Now, this is another lie, okay? Because the fact is that the New World, not only was it discovered by our people, but another thing is that he didn't accidentally stumble upon it. He knew he was coming here. This is the reason why, if you look up Christopher Columbus and you look up the original books that were written about him, it will tell you that he had Hebrew translators on board because he knew he was going to run into the lost tribes of Israel. He knew this. They knew this. That's why he was known to carry the book of Esdras in belief that he was going to run into the land known as Osiris, which is what this place was known as, okay? Scripturally, this place was known as that. This is the place that Solomon knew about and sent him explorers here to come and get things and bring back to him. Okay, so this place was already known about by certain wise men on earth, knew about this place. Okay, and who also knew about this place? The elders of the northern tribes, because the elders had a council to come to this land, and the Most High basically had the winds or the waters bring them over to this side of the world. Okay, now as we go on, in fact, we're not going to read the whole thing, but there was a part in here that dealt with the killings, that how many people had perished on the island. Now, he came in 1492. It says here that by 1515 on Hispaniola alone, just the island that is known to hold Haiti and Dominican Republic, on that island alone, war and slavery had killed 200,000 Arawaks, or 80% of the original population by conservative estimates. Eventually, all of the natives were wiped out, which they weren't all completely wiped out. Okay, they were known to have basically tried to hide in some of the mountainous regions, and they were kind of left there to kind of fend for themselves away from where the Spanish had controlled, okay? And it wasn't worth it for many of the Spanish. These were people known as the Maroons, the runaway so-called slaves and the natives that have set up their own what was known as Maroon colonies in some of these places. So it's a lie to say that the Northern Kingdom was completely, utterly wiped out. They were decimated, but they were not completely, utterly destroyed on that island. And there were some people that are indeed descendants of natives that were on that land. And if you go to some of these places, there was parts and areas where they settled on more than others. In fact, in the island of Hispaniola, the area that was known, that ended up becoming the Dominican Republic, that was the side that the natives moved to more than on the French side. Because as the French went to war and took over that side that became as Haiti, they pretty much had decimated on that side of the island the native population to the point where they had to always bring in new people that were enslaved of our people, and they were being worked to death. Many people weren't even seeing the age of 30 when you look up the history of Haiti and how brutal the captivity was in the island of Haiti. That's why it was also known as hell. Okay, there was a nickname for Haiti known as hell, meaning that it was hell. It was basically torment. Okay, it was torment that was happening to the people of wicked high level proportions, and that's what it was also known as. Okay, because the captivity and the slavery there was just so brutal and just devilish, demonic, okay, so to speak, torturous. Now, as you go on, it tells you eventually all the natives were wiped out, which I dispelled, which can be, if you look it up, it wasn't true that they were all wiped out completely. Harvard historian Samuel Eliot Morrison has written that the cruel policy initiated by Columbus and pursued by his successors resulted in complete genocide. It says, every time we observe Columbus Day, we pay homage to this genocidal madman. Fortunately, his bloody, forgotten legacy has began to surface lately. This is in 96. This shows y'all, brothers and sisters, for you younger brothers and sisters, this shows you just how important this internet coming about. Okay, this shows you how important this internet has now exposed more things, because a lot of this stuff wasn't even really discussed. People just ran with the lie, so to speak, to where there's still people that are waning away and getting away from that mindset. Okay, so it's one of these things, man. is one of these things where you're just like, man, I'm telling you, when you see this, you're like, you realize just how much things has changed, and how the scriptures in Daniel, how it says that knowledge shall increase, and that's very true. So let's go ahead and kind of go on, with this one. We're going to go just briefly look at this as the Spanish colonization of the Americas. When you go into it, it just tells you the atrocities, right? The forced conversions, which we went into last week, about how many people had died, okay? And how these people immigrated here in large numbers. We got to remember, man, that there are indeed people that are descendants, all right, of the Spaniards, okay? And that's something that we have to, keep a buck about, okay? When it comes to these lands, because not everybody that's on these lands are Israelites, okay? And you have to remember that when talking to people or even preaching to people, you have to have that in the back of your mind. Understand, just because somebody's coming from a Latin American country or Spanish-speaking country, it doesn't automatically classify them as an Israelite, okay? We got to get off that simplicity and start moving towards preaching faith in Yahawashi to get the elect, okay? But we also must understand the history behind what happened in these lands, and be very much aware that these Spanish so-called settlers or invaders did not just disappear off the face of the earth. They had descendants, they had babies, they had children, okay? They still hold sway and power in all these Latin American countries, okay? If you go to the upper class parts of these countries, you're going to see nothing but pretty much people that look like they came straight from Spain, okay? And they look like that for a reason. Now, that doesn't mean because somebody looks like they came from Spain that they can't be an Israelite, because you have so-called, relations or that have happened over time that has led to people looking a certain way. So we're not one of those people that judge by outward appearance, but we judge the heart. And how you do that is when you bring some of these things up and you say that these atrocities happen. Hey, those are going to be people out there. They're going to basically say they don't care, they don't have no remorse about it, yada yada yada. The scriptures tell you that the elect, that the people that believe in the Lord are going to be those that are against oppression, okay, and that they're going to take a stand and plead the cause, right, of the poor, so to speak, right, and those that have been victims, right, of atrocities such as this, okay. So it says it's estimated. We'll skip down here. It is estimated during the colonial period in 1492 and 1832, a total of 1.86 million Spaniards settled in the Americas, and a further 3.5 migrated, okay, or immigrated during the post-colonial era, okay, because you had more after the post-colonial era because they wanted to take over completely. There was too many natives or so-called Negroes or Morenos, as they would call it, that were in the land, and that's why when the colonialism had so-called ended, meaning the influence of the Spanish crown directly had basically been removed, they decided to what? Blancamiento, meaning whiten the race. And they had all these different propagandas of how they were going to be able to advance the race, mejor la raza, meaning better the race. Okay, and these particular doctrines are still prevalent today amongst, so-called Latinos or people of Hispanic background, so to speak. And this is one of the things that a lot of brothers that are from these backgrounds, you're going to have to start doing more and more about this to kind of get people that are here that did not understand that and that are from other countries where they don't know this history to break down that lie of that, to rebuke it, and to also say that particular doctrine that was being pushed is wrong. And this is going to help you correct your own people to begin to look at their own brethren that are of, the southern kingdom, so to speak, or of the kingdom of Judah, as we know that the Most High was going to bring both those sides together. And that's what's happening right now. Regardless, that's happening. But you want to be knowledgeable of how you can break those particular, barriers that have been put up through these series of captivities and this dividing of our people by culture and language that has happened has made us appear strangers to one another, when we're indeed, of our people, we're brethren, so to speak. So that's the truth of the reality of, why these things are important that we go into in these days. Okay. Now, it says here, by contrast, the indigenous population plummeted, which if you go here, it's going to go into that which we did, indigenous people of the Americas. You can read that in your own time, but it's going to go into what happened. It says by an estimated 80% in the first century and half following Columbus's voyage, primarily through the spread of Afro-Eurasian diseases, which, these guys, they always try and make it seem like that was the only way that they got decimated, when they know that there was violence. They even documented, they drew pictures, bro. These people drew pictures. Bartholomew de las Casas, he was there. He saw it go down. He wrote about it. He wrote a whole book about the atrocities that he saw. So he didn't just say that people died of disease. He made it known that violence was the main tool that was used to decimate the people. Okay? Now, if we go here, it says one source claims the Spanish conquest was responsible for 1,400,000 to 2,300,000 deaths, explicitly excludes the tens of millions of deaths from New World diseases, which they always try and run to the disease is the only thing that decimated. But it was a variety of factors, but also including violence, starvation, removing of your cattle, of your produce, so to speak, which is actually in the prophecies, by the way, that another people will take the increase of thy kind, thy cattle, right, thy corn, thy wine, thy oil, and you should not enjoy it. That's what they did. Okay. So it says here that we're killed by what is called democide, which means government caused murder. Okay. Democide is exactly what these Edomites they specialize in. They specialize in committing government sponsored terrorism or genocide. Okay, it is no different than some of the policies that occurred under Stalin, under Hitler. Okay, which Hitler situation was over exaggerated, but that's a situation for another time, because it is damn near illegal to talk about those particular things. But if brothers want to know more about that, that's something you have to catch offline, because these people, they go around anything that you try and dispel concerning, concentration camps in World War II and Nazism. These people, they try and, act all crazy, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? And they try and get you off the air, so to speak. So, if you look deep enough, you can find that type of information that dispels some of those, lies about what really happened. Now, if you go on, it's going to go, man. This is long, man. Look at this. I mean, it really tells you. Goes into the history. You can click on one hyperlink to another. There's also other articles. There's other books on this particular subject, but this is the stuff that they did. So why would we commemorate such a day that basically was sorrowful for our people? Okay, this is the worst time. Just thinking about it, sometimes it gets you teary-eyed. For some people that are tied closer to this and know what your people have suffered and what they're suffering now, especially will probably make you cry at times. Okay, and these people have no sympathy for what they've done to us. They've never apologized for what they've done. They've never made amends right. And there's only a few ways. There's only one way that you can there's only a few ways that this can be rectified, and the Most High has a perfect plan to do so. So this is Daniel, okay, the book of Daniel, where a lot of prophecies have come forth and understood out of this book. This is Daniel chapter 9 and verse 9. To the Lord our God belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Because that's the reason why this happened to us as a people. We have to remember that, all right, that this happened because our forefathers rebelled, okay, against the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So, and we have borne, the brunt of the punishment as a people. All right, so you had people that were born later, after the arrival of Christopher Columbus. They went through punishments. You had babies that were born that were fed to dogs. You had people that were mining, gold in mines, and when they didn't come with a certain amount, they had their hands chopped off. They weren't around when Christopher Columbus arrived. They were just, born in a time, right, of great persecution and oppression. All right, that they probably didn't understand why it was happening. And it is up to us to let it be known why this happened. Verse 10, neither have we obeyed the voice of Yahweh our God to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants the prophets. Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us. Okay, which we were just reading about in Deuteronomy 28. The curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, right? Which we were reading out of in Deuteronomy 28. That is the law, considered the law of Moses, because we have sinned against him. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath been done upon Jerusalem. Okay, so as it been done upon Jerusalem, on the city of peace. Here it is, we were a peaceful people. Even Christopher Columbus wrote that. But what did he do? He brought mass violence, okay, against our people. Now, I'm going to go into this because, we talk about the atrocities like we did last week and this week, but this is the reason why this is in the law, man. You can't do these things and think you're going to get away with it. You just can't. Okay? This is Numbers 35 and 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. And that's the reason why the bloodiness of different empires and nations always came back upon them, and they had to have their blood shed. And the same thing is going to happen with the children of Edom. They cannot get around this. This is the law, okay? Because when the blood is shed, when the retribution has, or the vengeance has come, that was justified because of what you've done. Therefore, it is not sin. It is just simply poetic justice at that point. Let's go to Obadiah, verse 8. Shall I not in that day, said Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau, which he's doing? And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter, which is going to happen. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Because in this article, that's what's happening when you read. This is from Harvard. Back in 96, this person wrote, they don't want to let you know who wrote this, but you have a lot of Edomites that in these times are basically, feeling shame about these atrocities. They're feeling sorry about it. They're beginning to see that this stuff, this is wrong, but these same Edomites still cannot muster up that there needs to be an apology, there needs to be retribution, restitution, that there needs to be people that need to be held accountable for this. And basically put in prison. They need to have their wealth taken away. You got people out here whose wealth was built upon these atrocities. Okay? And that's why the more and more we bring this up, the more and more shame covers these people. Okay? And those of them that are prideful, that don't want to admit it, shame will cover them then. Okay? When their kingdom comes down, and when there's a yoke of iron around their neck, as ours was, that's when they're going to feel shamed. Before the world, before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, they'll know that they touched the apple of his eye. Okay, they will know who they touched was Yahweh's chosen people. Okay, this is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Thus saith Yahweh, Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go. And this is what is going on. They refuse to let us go. That's the reason why the Most High is going to send, right, the kinsman redeemer. Okay? Verse 34, the redeemer is strong, meaning the people who were oppressed together. Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give the rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Okay, which is we're here in Babylon. And he's going to do this. He's going to make this happen. He's going to turn everything around, right, to destroy these people that did this to us. All right, beginning here in Babylon, known as America, all right, the United States, the USA, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's going to fall, according to prophecy. Now, this is Amos chapter 1 and verse 11. Thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, okay, which is the atrocities, the slaughters that they've done from that time, from former ages unto this very day. You pursued your brother with the sword, which is Jacob, who had the children of Israel. So that's what happened. The nation of Edom slaughtered and pursued with the sword the nation of Israel, and did cast off all pity, meaning you had no pity. Because even the tears that some of y'all cry is crocodile tears. Because when we tell y'all, hey, why don't you bring justice for us? Why don't you give retribution for us? Then you start doing the freaking, the okie doke concerning this. Okay, and continue on. And his anger did tear perpetually. So his anger, these people are angry at us. These people, when you do stuff like this, you have a certain level of anger that is perpetual. You just can't let it go. Here it is, all these atrocities. You don't think for 1 second that one day it's going to turn around on you. You can't sit here and think, man, karma is a mug. Even from your own standpoint, you know certain things, what goes up must come down, that every action equals an equal and opposite reaction. All these things that you know and all these science and technologies that you apply to, somehow, some way, you're not able to attribute it to your own actions against another people. And he kept his wrath forever. Meaning he never let it go. These Edomites probably be dead and they still be freaking angry. You know what I'm saying? They still be angry at Jacob. Oh, I hate him. These people, man, you can't stop these people, man. This is an energy that is unlike anybody's ever seen on the earth. Is the hatred that Esau has for Jacob. That's the reason why we have this that the saints is eagerly so waiting for. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 9. If any man hath an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, as we go on, I'm going to read the whole Baruch chapter 4. Because it's basically, summarizes all the stuff that has happened to us by the hands of these Edomites. And it just gives you a glimmer, of hope to come, in the near future of, our redemption. So this is the book of Baruch. This is in the book of the Apocrypha. It says here, this is the book of the commandments of God, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. Give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. Okay, such as Esau, Edom. There's no reason why we should try and give our blessing that is under the new covenant to a strange nation, such as the nation of Edom. This is the warning that is within this particular book. You have to understand and think deeply about what this is saying. Verse 4, okay? O Israel, happy are we, for things that are pleasing to God are made known to us, unto us. That's why we have the understanding as a people, not these other nations, not an Edomite, not Vocabulon, not Adam, Coleman, and all these other guys that are out here trying to stand up against our salvation, all right, as enemies that they are, as they shown to be historically. And guys like this will never go out and fully out apologize and go and try and create a referendum to basically find a way to give back the things that were taken away from us, to deliver justice. They can't do it because they have a hatred for you. Verse 5. But nonetheless, be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel. Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved Yahweh to wrath. Ye were delivered unto the enemies. For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils, and not to Yahweh. Ye have forgotten the everlasting power that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. For when she saw the wrath of Yahweh coming upon you, she said, Hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion. Yahweh hath brought upon me great mourning, for I saw the captivity of my sons and daughters, which the everlasting brought upon them. With joy did I nourish them, but sent them away with weeping and mourning. Let no man rejoice over thee, a widow, forsaken of many, who for the sins of my children am left desolate, because they departed from the law of Yahweh. They knew not his statutes, nor walked in the ways of his commandments, nor trod in the paths of discipline in his righteousness. Let them that dwell about Zion come, and remember ye the captivity of my sons and daughters, which the everlasting hath brought upon them. For he hath brought a nation upon them from far, a shameless nation and of a strange language, who neither reverence old or pitied child. Okay? And that's the same thing that we read in the book of Deuteronomy. And it is also the same nation that we also are talking about, the nation of Edom. Okay? Because it's talking about a singular nation. Is letting you know that there was one particular nation out of all the nations that were created that stuck out. And this is a nation that you have to have a unction and understanding for. When you read this, you can see it. Okay? Even if you're in other parts of the world, they even see this. When they look at their history and they look at why they are Israelites, when they look in whether they're in Africa, whether they're in the Middle East, whether they're in Europe, whether they're in Asia, when they look at the history and they see the reason why we're in the position we're in, you can always pinpoint to this particular group of people as the spearhead of this. Okay? Verse 16, these have carried away the dear beloved children of the widow, and left her that was alone desolate without daughters. But what can I help you? For he that brought these plagues upon you will deliver you from the hands of your enemies. Okay? Which will be all of the nations as well. Okay? Not just this one strange nation, but all nations where we were scattered to. For your way, go your way, O my children, go your way. For I am left desolate. I have put off the clothing of peace, and put on me the sackcloth of my prayer. I will cry unto the everlasting in my days. See, the land of Israel actually has a life force. All right, that it's with being without the children of Israel, which are tied and bonded to that land, have a special bond with that land, and has the heathen trodden it down. It's in a state of mourning. That's the reason why the place it looks like a desert. Okay, it looks like a desert land. It doesn't look like a great plenteous land flowing with milk and honey like it was in the ancient world. Okay, it has been decimated. It has been left desolate. Okay, and she said, I will cry until the everlasting in my days. Okay, and you got to remember that land cries out to the Lord too, just like we do. Okay, it's a mutual feeling. And we desire, those of us brothers and sisters, we desire to be able to inherit the land of our fathers, man, and to see it go back into the state of greatness as it was in former times. Just like the land desires to receive its children, right? The children of Israel upon that land. Be of good cheer, O my children. Cry unto the Lord, and he will deliver you from the power of the hand of the enemies. For my hope is in the everlasting, that he will save you. And joy is come unto me from the Holy One, because of the mercy which shall soon come unto you from the everlasting, our Savior. For I sent you out with mourning and weeping, but Yahweh will give you to me again with joy and gladness forever. Like as now the neighbors of Zion have seen your captivity, so shall they see shortly your salvation from our God, which shall come upon you with great glory and brightness of the everlasting. My children, suffer patiently the wrath that is come upon you from God. For thine enemies have persecuted thee, but shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shalt tread upon his neck. My delicate ones have gone rough ways, and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies. Be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto God, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. For as it was your mind to go astray from God, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. For he that hath brought these plagues upon you shall bring your everlasting joy with your salvation. Take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflicted thee, and rejoice at thy fall. Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons, for as she rejoiced at thy ruin, and was glad at thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting. Who's the her? Okay, who's the her? If you know, you know. Okay, who's the her that's going to receive the fire from the everlasting? Long to endure, and shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east. Interesting. We have to look towards the east. And behold the joy that cometh unto thee from Yahweh. Lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. They came gathered together from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of Yahweh. So hopefully, that was an inspiring, chapter for y'all. This is something that, you definitely want to read in these times. One of many scriptures that is referring to these times, and gives us a proper balance of the atrocities and the things that we face, the oppression we face, but also reminding us of the great redemption that is to come. So hopefully this is edifying, and again, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Ba'Sham Yahawashi. Peace and blessings and grace and mercy, of course, be abound. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding be abound even further in great understanding and great strength. All right, and may the love of Yahushua HaMashiach that surpasseth all knowledge be upon you. Shalom.